What's up, YouTube? I'm going to be changing the brakes on this Nissan Frontier. And on the caliper is just two bolts that got to get taken out. It's an upper bolt, and then there's a lower bolt right here. Now these bolts are 14 mil, and I've turned the wheel to give me more access, more clearance to take these bolts off. Usually the wheel is straight, but what I did, I turned the steering wheel to angle it outwards so I have easier access to the bolts. And on a lot of cars, you could actually just remove the bottom bolt and flip the whole caliper up. On some cars, not so much. So, like so, just take the one bolt out, flip it up, and brakes are right here. And if you notice, you see on these brakes, you see a spring. This one, this is the top one, and there's one at the bottom. And all it does is just to help separate the pad from the rotor, release friction basically. So you just want to make sure you put these back in, and there's two holes inside the brake pads that the pin slides into. So I'll just go ahead, I'll squeeze it, and I'll pull the pin out. That's how it looks. Same thing for the bottom one. And the low sensor, when the brake gets low, this scratches against the rotor, and that's how you hear like a little scraping noise. So for this one, it was on the inside at the bottom. Remove the hardware. And if this is something you're doing for the first time, just do one at a time. So one side at a time, one section at a time. You remove the hardware on the lower one, you put the new hardware you have. If you don't have new hardware, you could always reuse the ones that came off. Just use a wire brush, clean them up. I got new ones. And you could use a wire brush and clean in here, but in this case it's pretty clean already. I'm not gonna do anything. And you want to make sure your hardware snaps in. And once you get it in, you want to make sure you push on your rotor, especially if you have both wheels off the ground. Push on your rotor, you rotate it. Make sure you don't hear any kind of scraping noise. But it has to be fully in, like so. I'll let it loose, and if you hear this, then you know your hardware is not installed correctly. Now for the pistons, I gotta push the pistons in, so I'm gonna take one of the old brake pads and use the tool to push it in. So here I got the old pad. Just want to put it against it. And these tools you could rent, actually you could rent this tool from AutoZone or your local auto parts store. And they actually have one that it pushes both pistons at the same time. So in this case, I'm just gonna keep moving it from the top one to the bottom one. And my hands are freezing right now. It's maybe about 20 degrees outside. I didn't warm my garage up before I came in here, so got the heat going. Pretty sure you guys could hear that in the background, but it's just not warm as yet. Okay, that should be good. Now before I put the brake pads in, I just want to check my slide pins, make sure they move. It's a little tight, but well, this one is good. The bottom one's a little bit tight. It spins, but it oh, it's actually okay. Now I go ahead, I put my pads on. And I put a little caliper grease on it, but you don't have to. I do that because this truck gets driven in a lot of snow, so it's a lot of salt and things gets rusted here. Both sides are on. Before I put the spring in, what I usually do, I swing the caliper down, make sure it sits, and just make sure it sits on. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so you can see what the clip looks like. One end goes in here, the other one goes right here, and already you could see it's pushing it apart. So that's actually how you want it to be, and you want to just hold it by hand while you put the bottom one in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be top one first, it could be bottom one first. Here I got the bottom one in. So now I hold it at the bottom, keep it squeezed in, because you see it's trying to move. So hold it like so, and I just try to drop my caliper down. And once you get the caliper over it at the top, you can let go. And you just finish putting it on. Put your low bolt back in. These are not torqued super tight. Check your torque specs. I always recommend that. there you have it. Now I'll do the other side. I'll pump the brakes, get it nice and firm. I'll check the reservoir, and brake is done. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.